People always say you can tell when something big is about to happen. Maybe it's a gut feeling, a weird dream, or the way the air feels right before a thunderstorm. For me, it started with a pair of shoes. To be precise, sleek, red-bottom heels that clacked through the kitchen like they owned the place. My wife, Madison, had never been the heels at breakfast type. Yoga pants and mismatched socks? Sure. But this? It was a Tuesday morning, and she looked like she was headed to a Met Gala instead of the corner office at Brentley and Company. Big meeting? I asked, sipping my coffee. She smirked without looking up from her phone. Promotion talk. You know how it is. I didn't. I worked from home. My promotion consisted of moving from the kitchen table to the spare room after we bought a desk from IKEA. Still, I smiled. You'll crush it. She glanced up for a split second, long enough to offer a polite smile, the kind you give a waiter who brings the wrong drink. Then the heels tapped their exit beat down the hallway. I should have felt proud, supportive. But instead, something low and off-key hummed in my chest. The same note I'd been hearing for months, ever since her mentor started showing up in every third sentence she spoke. You ever get the feeling someone says a name too easily? Like it's been rolling around on their tongue too long? That name was Colin Hart. Executive VP. Charmer. Divorced. Gym membership. Instagram full of yacht selfies and book quotes he didn't write. But hey, I told myself, maybe he's just a good boss. Maybe Madison finally found someone at work who believes in her. Maybe. Madison's been in corporate 10 years. She's smart, driven, and when she's focused, there's no one sharper. I'd always admired that about her. But lately, her ambition had a new coat of paint. Glossier. More performative. We used to joke about corporate buzzwords, synergy, pivot, circle back. But now, she used them unironically. She pivoted more than a ballerina in a wind tunnel. That night, she came home late, smelling like hotel lobby cologne and cold champagne. Her eyes sparkled the way they used to back when we were still new, and everything felt like fire and laughter. I got it, she said, hanging her coat. Got what? She leaned against the wall, grinning. The promotion. Executive team. I'm leading the rebrand. I got up to hug her, but she turned toward her purse first. Colin says I'll kill it, she added, almost like a reflex, not looking at me when she said it. There it was again. Colin. I smiled. Said all the right things. Toasted her with the cheap Cabernet on the counter. But inside, something shifted. Something small. A whisper. This isn't the win you think it is. 2 days after the promotion, Madison stopped cooking breakfast. Now, I'm not saying scrambled eggs are a sacred marital ritual, but it used to be our thing. She'd fry them while humming old Coldplay, and I'd make the toast. A little domestic harmony before she stomped off to corporate war. But now? Silence. No eggs. No humming. Just the faint whiff of perfume and the echo of her heels leaving before I was even out of bed. At first, I chalked it up to workload. Executive positions don't exactly come with extra free time. But soon, I noticed other little changes. Her gym bag, once a dusty prop in the hallway, started seeing daylight again. Dry cleaning tags multiplied like rabbits. And her phone? Glued to her hand. Always on vibrate. Always face down. One night, as she showered, her phone lit up on the nightstand. I didn't touch it. I'm not that guy. But I couldn't help noticing the notification. Looking forward to tomorrow. Champagne or scotch? See? Champagne or scotch? Not exactly. How's the quarterly report coming along? She came out of the shower wrapped in a towel, her skin glowing from the steam. She caught me glancing at the phone and offered a smile, this one sharper, tighter. Everything okay? She asked, drying her hair with casual elegance. I nodded. Yeah. Just haven't seen much of you lately. She paused. Work's been intense. You know how it is. Do I? She shrugged, like I just offered an opinion about weather patterns. This is a huge opportunity for me, Logan. Colin's really helping me grow. Grow. You ever hear a word that makes your skin itch? That was it. But I said nothing. Because deep down, I wasn't ready to admit it. Not out loud. Not yet. The next day, I got lunch with my buddy Max, the kind of friend who doesn't say, I told you so, but absolutely thinks it loudly enough for your soul to hear. She's not cheating, I said halfway through my sandwich, answering a question he hadn't asked. Max raised an eyebrow. Nobody said she was. She's just working hard. He sipped his drink and gave me that look. The one people give right before dropping truth like a bowling ball on your chest. You're not worried about her working hard, Logan. You're worried about who she's working hard for. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. Because the thing about gut instincts? They never knock twice. That night, I lay in bed next to Madison, staring at the ceiling while she laughed softly at something on her phone. Probably a spreadsheet. Or Colin in a towel. Let me tell you something about betrayal. It doesn't walk in wearing devil horns. No. It shows up in tailored suits, with LinkedIn endorsements and a charming smile that makes your wife laugh like she's 16 again. It walks in exactly like Colin Hart did. Friday evening, Madison texted me. Dinner tonight? Just the three of us. I want you to finally meet Colin. Just the three of us. Like we were coworkers. Like I wasn't about to have dinner with a man who had slowly replaced me in every sentence, every schedule, every smile. But I agreed. Because sometimes, when your instincts are screaming, the only way to quiet them is to drag them into the light. So there I was, 10 minutes early at a candlelit restaurant that charged extra for bread, waiting for the man who, whether he knew it or not, had been living rent-free in my marriage. He walked in 5 minutes late. Tan. Crisp. Confident. If a Patagonia ad grew legs and bought a Rolex, that would be Colin Hart. Madison followed right behind him, laughing at something he said. She slid into the booth beside him. Not across from him. Beside him. I nodded. Nice to finally meet you, Colin. He extended his hand like a politician. Logan. Heard a lot about you. Same, I said. Mostly from my wife. He smiled like that was charming. We ordered. He talked. A lot. Told me about vision, team dynamics, synergy. Words that made me want to fake a seizure just to escape the monologue. Madison just smiled and sipped her wine. Then, as the dessert menus came, Colin leaned back and dropped it. I'll make this simple, he said, locking eyes with me. You've got two options, Logan. Leave quietly, or face me like a man. Madison didn't even blink. She smiled. The blood left my fingers. My ears started ringing. Leave quietly, or face me like a man. This wasn't dinner. This was a eulogy. I looked him square in the eyes and said, You want your teeth whole, or in pieces? Then I stood up. Calm. Measured. And cleared the table with his smug little face. Plates shattered. Wine flew. Madison screamed. Security rushed over. Colin wheezed on the floor, no longer quite the thought leader of the evening. As they dragged me outside, blood on my knuckles and silence in my chest, I realized something. This wasn't the beginning of the affair. This was the grand finale. The curtain call. The final reveal after a long con where I'd been cast as the fool. Madison had invited me to watch myself lose. But I wasn't broken. I was awake. And that? That was her mistake. I got home with bruised knuckles and a head full of silence. You know that weird stillness after a big storm, when the trees are leaning but the air's dead calm? That's what it felt like walking into our house that night. Our house, or more accurately, her house now. Because everything inside those walls suddenly looked like a set on a show I'd been written off of. The couch? Too clean. The throw pillows fluffed just right. Her favorite candle burning in the hallway, vanilla sandalwood with a top note of betrayal. And the bed? Made. Perfectly made. Madison had never once made the bed in our 7 years of marriage unless her mother was visiting. But tonight, it looked like a hotel room. Tight corners, pillows stacked like architectural designs, not a wrinkle in sight. I stood in the doorway for a long second, just looking at it. Like it would blink first. It didn't. I sat down on the edge, hands still raw from reality. My phone buzzed in my pocket, her name lit up on the screen. Madison. You didn't have to do that. You embarrassed yourself. No, are you okay? No, let's talk. Just a memo from the HR department of our dying marriage. That's when something inside me flipped. Not rage. Not sadness. Just focus. I didn't want to guess anymore. I wanted truth in my hands. Something I could hold. Something undeniable. So I stood up, walked over to her side of the closet, and started digging. Nothing crazy. Just looking. Shoes. Dresses. A scarf I'd bought her in Florence still in the box. But on the floor, in the back corner, I saw a pair of red heels I didn't recognize. New. Expensive. And not the kind of thing you wear to budget meetings. I grabbed her tablet off the vanity. She never locked it. Thought I trusted her too much for that. She was right about one thing. I never checked. Until now. Photos. Emails. DMs. The first photo that hit me was her standing in a hotel mirror. Lingerie. The kind I didn't even know she owned. Same red heels. Timestamped last weekend. The same weekend she claimed she was visiting her friend Rachel for wine night. She wasn't holding wine. She was holding her phone, smirking into it like it was her real husband. I kept scrolling. Messages. Colin, room's ready. 8 p.m. Don't keep me waiting, boss lady. Madison, hope you like red. Heels, not wine. Cute. And the worst part? The tone. That easy, breezy rhythm they had. Like they were on vacation while I was still back here sorting mail and heating up leftovers. I closed the tablet and placed it back exactly where it was. Then I laughed. Not a bitter laugh. Not even an angry one. Just a quiet exhale of course. Like finding out the magician had a card up his sleeve the whole time, and you were the only one who clapped. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat on the couch with an old notepad and started making a list. Dates, times, receipts, clues I had ignored. You start writing it all out, and it doesn't take long before the story tells itself. Turns out, there had been 2 marriages. One in public, one in private. The one everyone saw had smiles, dinner parties, anniversary posts with filters. The other? That one ended months ago. But the thing is, Madison didn't bury me. She woke me up. The next morning, I got up before sunrise. Showered, shaved, put on my old navy blue blazer, the one I hadn't worn since job interviews felt like lifelines. I brewed her favorite coffee blend. The overpriced Ethiopian one she used to claim was Liquid Ambition, and I left the cup right there on the counter. And beside it, the photo, the one from the hotel mirror, printed and framed, with a yellow sticky note across the bottom. Nice shoes. I'll keep the house. Madison came home that night like nothing had happened. Not like she'd hosted a PowerPoint infidelity presentation at dinner. Not like she'd publicly humiliated me in front of a man who thinks calling himself a visionary makes up for a weak jawline. Nope. She waltzed in at 7:43 p.m., heels in hand, phone glued to her palm, scarf tossed casually over her shoulder like betrayal had a dress code. She stopped at the counter, spotted the framed photo, the mirror selfie, red heels, her smirk immortalized in glossy print, and froze. The sticky note was still there. Nice shoes. I'll keep the house. She didn't speak for a solid 10 seconds. That was a new record. Finally, she blinked. Are you serious? I took a sip from my glass of water and didn't even look up. You tell me. She slowly peeled the sticky note off the frame and dropped it into the sink. A satisfying little plunk. Logan, I didn't mean for you to find that. I held up a hand. Calm. Civil, like a judge waiting for the witness to stop digging their own grave. No. Stop. Don't do the you weren't supposed to see it routine. That's not remorse. That's regret you got caught. Her jaw flexed. It's not like that. Colin and I. Oh, you and Colin. I interrupted, finally locking eyes with her. You know, I'd heard his name so much the past few months, I started to think he was our roommate. She set her purse down with a thud. This is more complicated than you think. No, I said. It's exactly as complicated as you made it. She opened her mouth to argue, but I was already walking out of the room. That was the last conversation I'd ever have with her on her terms. No more pleading. No more confusion. I'd made my decision the night I found those messages. And today? Today was day 1 of the soft launch. Step 1 of revenge, civility. Not because I'd forgiven her, but because I wanted her to think I had. You see, angry husbands break windows. Calculated husbands rearrange the entire floor plan. Over the next few days, I was polite. Cordial, even. I cooked dinner, cleaned the house, laughed at her jokes like a man freshly lobotomized. She didn't trust it. Of course she didn't. A cheater expects chaos, not calm. One night she came home late and found me folding laundry. Folding. Actual shirts. I was even watching the Great British Bake Off, the safest show known to mankind. You're being weird, she said, setting down her bag. I smiled. Just trying to be better. We've both made mistakes. She squinted. That's really mature of you. Thanks. And then I handed her the laundry basket and walked away. Left her standing there, holding her own blouse like a waitress holding a tray of shame. What she didn't know was that step 2 was already in motion. While she was busy swiping through Colin's motivational texts, I was building a digital trail. Photos, screenshots, date-stamped emails, location logs. I even had a spreadsheet. With tabs. That's right, a spreadsheet. I went full Excel vengeance. See, the thing about corporate cheaters is they think they're smarter than everyone else. But they forget one thing. Paper trails don't lie. And I wasn't just gathering dirt for me. Oh no, I was preparing a little care package for HR. That's right. I didn't just want Madison exposed. I wanted Colin to taste what it's like to chew broken glass with a smile. Turns out, his mentorship had been an open secret. He had a record of mentoring 3 other women in the past 5 years. One left mysteriously. One was quietly transferred. The third filed a complaint and then withdrew it. Interesting pattern. So I hired a private investigator. Not because I needed more proof, but because I wanted precision. And this guy? He delivered. Photos, phone records, a log of Colin's working lunches. He even got a photo of them checking into a hotel 2 days after she told me she had a migraine and needed to rest. Beautiful, professional, bulletproof. And then I waited. Because sometimes vengeance is like a souffle. It takes time, heat, and silence. Let them think they've won. Let them strut around the office with smug little secrets. Because when the drop hits, it'll be seismic. But here's the thing. I didn't want to just burn bridges. I wanted to sell the land they stood on. So I started meeting with a lawyer. Quietly. Efficiently. Madison still thought she was married to a man too soft to fight back. She had no idea she was living with a man who was about to make her boss, and her fantasy life go up in smoke. One morning, she came down the stairs wearing a silk blouse I'd never seen before. "Do I look good enough for the executive team?" she asked with a little wink. I smiled. "You look ready for an HR investigation." She blinked. "What?" "Nothing," I said, handing her a travel mug. "Careful. It's hot." She left, confused. A little shaken. Perfect. Because what happens next? Well, let's just say, the souffle's almost done rising. The funny thing about betrayal is that it ages fast. In the moment, it feels like fire. Sharp, scorching, immediate. But give it time, and it turns cold. Calculated. Like ice in a glass just before you raise it in a toast to someone's downfall. And that's exactly where we were now. It had been 6 weeks since that dinner. 6 weeks since Colin's face met a plate of risotto. 6 weeks since Madison started living under the illusion that I'd moved on. She wore relief like a perfume, sprayed it on every morning. Smiles, soft kisses on the cheek, the occasional suggestion of maybe counseling. She thought she'd dodged the bullet. She didn't know the bullet was still mid-flight, and I was just letting her walk into it. Let me back up. Step 3 of my little plan was timing. I didn't want just revenge. I wanted the slow unraveling, the kind that starts at the seams and ends in a pile of threads on the floor. So I waited for the quarterly shareholder review. Brentley and Company made a big deal out of it. Polished presentations. Department heads gathering like royalty at a digital round table. Even the board tuned in. And guess who was giving her first full report as project lead? Yep, Madison. And sitting next to her, all polished and polished and polished, Colin Hart, chief executive charmer. I logged in from my home office, camera off, mic muted, sipping coffee like it was an awards show. And then, there she was. Hair curled, white blazer. That same cold, camera-ready confidence she used to give me in private, now reserved for PowerPoint slides and Colin's side-eye glances. "This new branding initiative," she said, "represents not just innovation, but a redefinition of who we are. What Brentley and Company stands for." What she didn't know was that in exactly 3 minutes, what Brentley and Company stands for was going to shift dramatically. Because I had sent a package. 2 of them, actually. One to the legal department, and one, more elegantly arranged, to the chairman of the board. Contents included photos of Madison and Colin at the Marlowe Hotel, time-stamped and location tagged. A full email thread from Madison's work account where Colin refers to our little secret project, wink wink. An internal memo she forwarded to him for early review, marked confidential. A side-by-side comparison of her project presentation, and a deck used by a competing firm 3 months earlier. A little plagiarism cherry on top. Oh, and for dramatic effect, a screen capture from a text. "Colin, after we launch this, you'll be sitting in the corner office, and I'll be under the desk. Deal." Madison, that's the only kind of synergy I care about. Face blowing a kiss. The room, the virtual room, changed. Her smile faltered. Colin stiffened. And just like that, the chairman spoke up. "Madison, may I ask where this data was originally sourced from?" She blinked. "Excuse me. The structure of this pitch mirrors an existing deck from Argonne Strategies. And we've received documents this morning suggesting inappropriate conduct between department heads." The chat box exploded like fireworks. Private messages. Sidebar comments. Legal jumping in with "We will investigate thoroughly." Colin leaned forward toward the webcam. "This is clearly a misunderstanding." "Colin," the chairman cut in. "Please remain silent while this is reviewed." Silence. I leaned back in my chair and took another sip of coffee. Delicious. Like victory brewed on low heat. Madison's eyes scanned the screen. Her expression wasn't fear. It was calculation. The face of someone flipping through excuses like a Rolodex. But nothing came out of her mouth. No one bought the act anymore. And in that moment, right there on a company-wide Zoom call, my wife and her boss were no longer the power couple of the month. They were an HR case study in slow motion. That night, she came home early. I heard her heels pause at the doorway. A soft thud as her bag dropped. The jingle of her keys like a funeral bell. I was in the kitchen, sautéing chicken like it was any other Wednesday. She walked in, quiet, controlled, like someone who knew the next move had to be perfect. "We need to talk," she said. "Oh." I flipped the chicken. "Now you want to talk?" She walked closer, set her hands on the counter like she was presenting a case. "There was a situation. Colin made mistakes. I may have too. But someone sent internal documents, private files, and the whole board is overreacting." "Overreacting?" I tilted my head. "That's an interesting take for someone being investigated." Her eyes narrowed. "You did this." I gave her the same smile she once gave me across a dinner table when she knew the night was over. "Of course I did." She stepped back, stunned by the honesty. "No denial? Why would I deny it?" I set the spatula down. "You set the fire. I just opened the windows so the smoke could get out." Her voice cracked slightly. "You ruined my career." "No, Madison. You ruined your career. I just made sure your presentation had an audience." She looked around the kitchen like it wasn't hers anymore. Because it wasn't. "Not really. You're not the man I married," she whispered. I shrugged. "He died somewhere between leave quietly or face me like a man, and you saying nothing." She stood there for a second, like she wanted to yell, or cry, or disappear. But she did none of those things. Instead, she walked out. Didn't slam the door. Didn't scream. Just left. I plated the chicken, turned on the TV, and enjoyed dinner. Because for the first time in months, I didn't have to guess anything. I knew exactly where I stood. And soon, she'd know exactly how far she had to fall. Madison stayed quiet after the scandal broke. I thought she'd rage. Blame me. Call a lawyer. Instead, she packed 2 suitcases, told me she needed space, and left like someone ducking under the final curtain of a bad play. Colin? He disappeared off the company site within 48 hours. His LinkedIn quietly updated to consultant. I guess he was consulting on how not to sleep your way out of a 6-figure salary and into a compliance lawsuit. The board made a clean sweep. Madison's project was pulled. An internal review was launched. A few more emails surfaced, enough to scorch Colin's chances of ever holding a real title again. Madison wasn't officially fired. She was invited to resign, which in corporate language is basically a polite guillotine. I thought that might be enough. But closure is funny. It's not about destruction. It's about balance. She'd burned trust. I'd returned the favor in kind. But there was still one thing left to do. There's a moment in every broken relationship when the shared memories become boxes. I went to the garage, grabbed the dusty plastic bins with Christmas, kitchen, and Madison stuff scribbled in faded Sharpie. I made a list. Jewelry she never wore anymore. The anniversary photo album she stopped updating after year 4. That signed copy of Lean and she used to quote before she leaned into someone else's lap. I packed it all with the kind of care you give when something used to matter. Wrapped each item in old t-shirts she left behind. Labeled the box, for return. Then I drove to her temporary apartment. No grand confrontation. Just a text. Your things are downstairs. Storage locker number 27. I'll pay for the unit for 30 days. After that, it's someone else's problem. She didn't reply. That was fine. Some conversations don't need words. Just silence. In receipts. I landed a job. New city. Clean slate. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Small place. Hardwood floors. No framed photos of fake happiness. Just a worn leather chair, a coffee machine that worked when it felt like it, and a piece I hadn't known in years. People ask if I ever forgave her. Here's the honest answer. I forgave myself. For missing the signs. For shrinking myself to make her shine. For believing love was about sacrifice instead of respect. I still think about that dinner sometimes, the one with Colin and candlelight and betrayal served medium rare. And I laugh. Not bitterly. Not cruelly. Just freely. Because I walked through the fire and came out clean. She? She left with a suitcase full of lies and a LinkedIn full of gaps. 6 months later, I ran into her. Elevator. Downtown building. I was visiting a client. She walked in just as the doors were closing. We locked eyes. And in that moment, I saw everything. Not rage. Not regret. Just realization. She was thinner. Tired. Still pretty, but in that stretched thin way people look when life stops feeding them lies. She smiled, just barely. Logan. Madison. The elevator hummed between floors. She cleared her throat. I heard you moved. Doing okay? I nodded. Better than okay. She glanced down at her phone. That night, the dinner. I didn't mean for it to happen that way. I looked at her. Not with anger. Not even with pity. Just clarity. You planned every detail, Madison. Right down to the lighting. You just didn't plan for me to fight back. She nodded slowly. Guess I deserve that. The elevator dinged. My floor. As I stepped out, I turned back just long enough to say the final line. Thanks for the promotion. She blinked. What? Rock bottom's where I found myself. And trust me, it's a hell of a lot better than being lost in your illusion. The doors closed. And just like that, I was free.